The Vakreen Empire had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years, and their dominion was built on a simple principle: hunt or be hunted. They were apex predators, standing nearly 9 feet tall with obsidian exoskeletons and 6 razor-sharp limbs that could tear through steel. Their culture celebrated the chase, the capture, and the consumption of lesser species. Captain Greg Miller of the Earth diplomatic vessel Horizon didn't know any of this when his ship was ripped from hyperspace by Vakreen gravity nets. He stood on the bridge, watching through the viewport as a massive bioship, organic and pulsing with bioluminescent veins, attached itself to his hull like a parasite. "Captain, they're cutting through," Lieutenant Amy Barnes reported from Tactical, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. Within minutes, the Vakreen boarding party crashed through. They moved like liquid nightmares, their multiple limbs carrying them across walls and ceilings with terrifying grace. The lead Vakreen, who later identified itself as Hunter Prime Zakthul, surveyed the crew with eyes that gleamed with predatory satisfaction. "Another species for the hunt," Zakthul clicked in its native tongue, which the ship's translator struggled to interpret. "You will be evaluated. The strong will provide sport. The weak will provide sustenance." Greg watched helplessly as his crew of 47 was catalogued like livestock. The Vakreen showed no malice, no hatred, just the cold efficiency of predators selecting prey. This was business as usual for them. This was how the galaxy worked. But Greg Miller was about to teach them that Earth had different rules. Part 2, Learning the Prey. The human survivors were taken to Vakreen Prime, a world that resembled a twisted hunting preserve. Massive biodomes contained captured species from across the galaxy, each environment carefully maintained to provide optimal hunting conditions. The Vakreen didn't just kill, they studied their prey, learned their habits, and then released them into controlled environments where they could be hunted for sport or food. Commander Lisa Hayes, the Horizon's first officer, found herself in a holding facility with 30 other humans and dozens of aliens she'd never seen before. A mantis-like creature in the adjacent cell communicated through rapid limb gestures. Through careful observation, Lisa realized it was trying to warn them. "They hunt in cycles," whispered Private Jake Coleman, a young security officer who'd been studying the patterns. "Every 10 days they release a group into the hunting grounds. We've seen 4 cycles since we arrived. No one who goes in comes back." Lisa refused to accept that fate. She began organizing the humans using their military training and natural human adaptability. They observed the Vakreen guards, noting their routines, their blind spots, their overconfidence. Meanwhile, back in the Sol system, the disappearance of the Horizon had triggered alarm bells. Admiral Patricia Scott mobilized Earth's defense fleet, but they had no idea where to look. The galaxy was vast and humanity was still new to interstellar politics. That changed when a single escape pod tumbled through Earth's outer defense perimeter. Inside, barely alive, was Communications Officer Kevin Wright. He'd been jettisoned by the Vakreen as a message. A recording chip embedded in his chest contained coordinates and a simple declaration in multiple languages. "We are Vakreen. We are the hunters. All others are prey." Earth's response was immediate. Patricia Scott called an emergency session of the United Earth Council. The debate was short. "They hunted our people," Patricia said, her voice like ice. "Now we show them what happens when you hunt humans." Part 3. The prey learns to hunt. The rescue fleet that Earth assembled was unlike anything the Vakreen had encountered. While other species fled or fought desperately when confronted by the hunters, humanity studied them. Every intercepted Vakreen communication was analyzed. Every pattern in their hunting behavior was cataloged. Earth's military strategists, led by Colonel Ryan Foster, developed a profile of Vakreen psychology. Their ambush predators elevated to a civilization, Ryan explained to his strike team aboard the stealth carrier Retribution. They rely on fear, speed, and surprise. But they've never faced persistence predators. They've never faced humans. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Earth forces would not engage the Vakreen in direct combat. Not yet. Instead, they would turn the Vakreen's own hunting grounds against them. Lieutenant Sophie Turner led the first insertion team onto a Vakreen hunting world. They moved through the alien jungles not as soldiers but as hunters. They tracked Vakreen hunting parties, learned their patterns, and began a campaign of psychological warfare. Vakreen hunters would find their prey already dead, killed with precision and efficiency that left no trace. Their tracking markers would be disabled. Their communication relays would fail at critical moments. The Vakreen didn't understand what was happening. For the first time in their history, they felt something unfamiliar, uncertainty. Back in the holding facilities, Lisa Hayes and her group had finally identified a weakness. The Vakreen used bioorganic technology, which meant it could be infected. Using medical knowledge and improvised chemistry from their emergency rations, the humans created a bacterial agent that would sicken the living components of Vakreen technology without harming the aliens themselves. "We don't want to kill them," Lisa explained to her team. "We want to teach them that we're not prey. We're a problem." When the next hunting cycle came, the humans were ready. As the facility's doors opened to release them into the hunting grounds, their bacterial agent had already spread through the facility's systems. Doors malfunctioned. Gravity nets failed. Communication systems went dark. And 31 very angry, very determined humans disappeared into the Vakreen hunting grounds, not to be hunted, but to hunt. Part 4. The Hunt Inverted Hunter Prime. Zakthul had never experienced fear. The emotion was alien to Vakreen psychology, bred out of them over millennia of evolution. But as reports flooded in from hunting worlds across the Empire, something cold and unfamiliar settled into its consciousness. Hunting parties were disappearing. Not defeated in glorious combat, simply vanishing. The humans moved through Vakreen territory like ghosts, striking without warning and fading before reinforcements could arrive. They displayed a tactical flexibility that the Vakreen, with their rigid hunting traditions, couldn't counter. Captain Greg Miller had survived his time in the hunting grounds by doing exactly what Vakreen doctrine said was impossible. He'd studied his hunters so thoroughly that he could predict their movements. When Earth forces arrived, he was already leading a coalition of freed alien prisoners in a guerrilla campaign against Vakreen infrastructure. "They think in terms of individual hunts," Greg explained to Sophie Turner when her strike team linked up with his resistance cell. "They're ambush predators who rely on isolated prey. They've never faced coordinated persistence hunting. They've never faced humans who can track them across days and terrain, who can outlast them, who can turn their own tactics against them." The turning point came at the Vakreen breeding world of Kalthar. Admiral Patricia Scott herself led the assault, not with overwhelming firepower but with precision. Earth forces disabled orbital defenses, inserted teams directly into Vakreen command structures, and forced Zakthul to confront a terrifying reality. Humans were better hunters. Patricia stood across from Zakthul in what had been an impregnable command center. The Hunter Prime's exoskeleton was scarred, its confidence shattered. Around them, Vakreen warriors stood frozen, surrounded by human soldiers who had appeared from nowhere, bypassed every defense, and done the impossible. "You hunted every species you found," Patricia said quietly. "You built an empire on predation, but you never encountered a species that evolved by hunting the hunters. Humans tracked prey across continents for days. We persistence hunted megafauna to extinction. We're not just predators, Zakthul. We're the predators that other predators fear." Part 5. A New Understanding. The war, if it could be called that, ended not with Earth's victory, but with the Vakreen's education. They were not defeated militarily, but psychologically. The fundamental assumption of their civilization had been shattered. They were not the galaxy's apex predators. In the negotiations that followed, Commander Lisa Hayes played a crucial role. She had studied the Vakreen extensively during her captivity and understood something others missed. They were not evil, just operating under a different evolutionary paradigm. "You hunted because you knew no other way," Lisa said during the treaty talks on neutral ground. "Your species evolved as ambush predators, and you assumed that made you supreme. But Earth evolved persistence predators. We didn't just hunt, we outthought, outplanned, and outlasted our prey. We became apex not through strength but through strategy. The Treaty of Terra Nova, as it came to be called, was unprecedented. The Vakreen Empire agreed to cease all hunting of sapient species. In exchange, Earth would help them transition their economy and culture. Human advisors, led by Ryan Foster and Sophie Turner, worked with Vakreen communities to redirect their hunting instincts toward non-sapient prey and competitive sports. It was not an easy transition. Some Vakreen clans resisted, leading to brief conflicts, but the message had been delivered clearly. Humanity would not tolerate the hunting of sapient beings. And unlike other species, the Vacrine ship traveled for 2 weeks before reaching its destination. During that time, the humans learned more about their captors through careful observation and occasional conversations with other prisoners. The mantis-like alien in the adjacent cells was named Krilch, and it had been captured 3 months earlier. Through gestures and simple drawings, it told them a terrifying story. The Vacrine Empire controlled hundreds of worlds across the galaxy. They were not conquerors in the traditional sense. They did not want territory or resources. They wanted prey. Every species they encountered was evaluated for 2 purposes: hunting sport or food. The strong and clever ones were released into hunting preserves where Vacrine nobles could track and kill them for entertainment. The weak ones were processed for meat. Commander Lisa Hayes felt sick when she understood what Krilch was telling them. She had been the first officer of the Horizon, second in command to Captain Miller. Now she was just another trapped animal waiting to be sorted. But Lisa had not survived 20 years in Earth's military by giving up easily. She started organizing the humans in secret. During the brief exercise periods when the Vacrine let them out of their cells, she moved from person to person, speaking quietly. Watch everything. Learn their patterns. Stay strong. We will find a way out of this. Private Jake Coleman became her unofficial assistant. The young man had a gift for noticing details. He counted how many Vacrine were on the ship. He memorized the guard rotation schedules. He even figured out that the Vacrine had better hearing than humans but worse sense of smell. They rely on visual hunting, Jake explained to Lisa during one exercise period. Their eyes can see in different light spectrums than ours. But I dropped some food near a guard yesterday, and it took him almost a minute to notice the smell. Their noses are weak. Lisa filed that information away. Every detail might be useful someday. When they finally arrived at Vacrine Prime, the sight took Lisa's breath away. The planet was beautiful in a twisted way. Massive biodomes covered the surface, each one a different color. Through the ship's viewing ports, she could see forests, deserts, oceans, and mountains all contained in separate bubbles. Hunting preserves, whispered Amy Barnes, who was standing next to Lisa. Each one is a different environment. They keep prey from different worlds in conditions that match their home planets. The humans were offloaded along with dozens of other captured aliens. They were herded into a massive holding facility that looked like it had been grown from the ground rather than built. The walls were the same organic material as the ship, warm and pulsing with light. A Vacrine official processed them one by one. It measured their height, weight, and physical capabilities. It tested their reflexes by making sudden movements and watching how they reacted. It even took blood samples to analyze their biology. Greg Miller went through the process with quiet dignity. He answered no questions beyond his name and rank. The Vacrine didn't seem to care. It was just collecting data, the way a butcher might examine livestock. After processing, the humans were moved to a larger holding area. This one had transparent walls that looked out onto one of the hunting preserves. Lisa watched in horror as she saw what happened there. A group of furry aliens that looked like upright wolves were released into a forest environment. They ran, trying to find shelter. Minutes later, 3 Vacrine hunters entered the same area. They moved like ghosts through the trees, their black armor blending with the shadows. The hunt lasted less than an hour. The Vacrine caught all 5 of the wolf-like aliens and killed them with brutal efficiency. This is what they do, Lisa said quietly. This is their culture, their entertainment, their way of life. Jake stood beside her, his young face hard with anger. How long do we have? The mantis alien said they hunt in 10-day cycles. We've been here for 2 days. That gives us 8 days to figure something out. But what could they do? They were trapped in a facility designed to hold dangerous creatures. The Vacrine had been doing this for thousands of years. They had perfected the system. The holding cells were escape-proof. The guards were vigilant. Every door required biological authorization from a Vacrine to open. Lisa refused to believe there was no way out. Humans had escaped from every kind of prison ever built. Someone always found a weakness. There had to be something the Vacrine had overlooked. She spent the next 6 days watching and learning. The Vacrine used bioorganic technology for everything. Their doors were living things that responded to chemical signals. Their weapons were partially alive. Even their armor was grown rather than manufactured. It was impressive technology, but it had a weakness. Living things could get sick. Lisa had been a medical officer before she became a ship commander. She understood biology and chemistry. During the exercise periods, she collected small amounts of the food they were given. Some of it was starting to rot. She also managed to steal a few drops of cleaning solution that the Vakreen used to maintain the cells. The solution had a strong chemical smell that reminded her of certain Earth compounds. Working in secret, Lisa began experimenting. She used containers made from folded pieces of their clothing. She mixed the rotting food with the cleaning solution and a bit of her own saliva. She was trying to create a bacterial culture that could survive in the conditions of the Vakreen facility. "What are you doing?" Amy asked one night, watching Lisa work with her makeshift chemistry set. "Biological warfare," Lisa whispered. "The Vakreen technology is alive. That means it can get infected. If I can create the right kind of bacteria, we might be able to sicken their systems. Not enough to kill the Vakreen themselves, but enough to disrupt their security." It was a desperate plan with a low chance of success, but it was better than nothing. On the 8th day, Greg gathered all the humans together during exercise period. "Tomorrow is the 10th day," he said quietly. "That means they'll be releasing some of us into the hunting grounds. We need to be ready." "Ready for what?" asked one of the engineers, a woman named Beth Cooper. "They're 9-foot-tall killing machines with armor we can't penetrate. What can we possibly do?" Greg's expression was grim but determined. "We do what humans do best. We adapt, we learn. We survive. Our ancestors survived saber-toothed tigers and cave bears. We survived ice ages without proper clothing or shelter. We didn't do it by being stronger or faster than our predators. We did it by being smarter and more stubborn." "The captain is right," Lisa added. "I have a plan to disrupt their security systems. It might not work, but it's worth trying. If we get released into the hunting grounds, we don't run randomly. We stick together. We use tactics. We think," Jake spoke up. "I've been watching how they hunt. They're ambush predators. They rely on speed and surprise. But they always hunt the same way. They follow patterns. If we can predict their patterns, we can avoid them." The next morning, the Vakreen guards came early. They selected 31 humans, including Greg, Lisa, Jake, and Amy. As they were being herded toward the release area, Lisa managed to smear her bacterial culture on several door mechanisms and control panels. The humans were pushed through a series of corridors toward a massive airlock. Beyond it was one of the hunting preserves, a forest environment that looked almost like Earth. The Vakreen guards activated the door mechanism. Nothing happened. The guards looked confused. They tried again. The door flickered but didn't open properly. While the Vakreen were distracted by the malfunctioning door, Lisa noticed that other systems were also acting strangely. Lights flickered. The gravity field fluctuated slightly. The bacterial infection was spreading faster than she had hoped. Finally, the door opened and the humans were shoved through into the hunting grounds. But as the door closed behind them, Lisa heard alarms starting to sound in the facility. The Vakreen were discovering that their systems were failing. Greg looked at his people. 31 frightened but determined humans standing in an alien forest. "They think they're hunting us," he said. "Let's show them what it means to hunt humans." The Vakreen had never encountered a prey species that could think strategically, work together, and refuse to give up. They were about to get an education. 3,000 light-years away from Vakreen Prime, something tumbled out of hyperspace near Earth's outer defense stations. The automated systems detected it immediately and sent out an alert. Within an hour, a recovery team had retrieved the small escape pod and rushed it to Earth's military headquarters. Admiral Patricia Scott arrived at the medical bay just as the doctors were stabilizing the pod's occupant. She recognized him immediately. Kevin Wright had been the communications officer on the horizon. Now he lay on a medical table, barely alive, with something embedded in his chest. "What is that?" Patricia asked, pointing at the metallic device. The head doctor, a man named Carl Price, carefully extracted it. "It's some kind of data storage device. Alien technology. Very advanced." Patricia took the device to the intelligence division. The analysts worked for 6 hours straight to decode its contents. What they found made Patricia's blood run cold. The device contained a recording. It showed the capture of the Horizon and its crew. It showed the Vakreen processing humans like animals, and it contained a message in multiple languages, including English. "We are Vakreen. We are the hunters. All others are prey. This one is returned so you will know your place. Patricia immediately called an emergency meeting of the United Earth Council. Representatives from every nation gathered in the Great Hall in Geneva. The recording was played for everyone to see. The reaction was immediate and unanimous. Earth had been attacked. 47 humans had been taken as prey. This could not stand. "We need to find them," said the Chinese representative, an older woman named Liu Wei. "We need to rescue our people, and then we need to make sure this never happens again," added the American representative, a former soldier named Carl Jenkins. "If there's a species out there that thinks they can hunt humans, they need to learn otherwise." Patricia was given command of the rescue operation. She had 30 years of military experience and had fought in the resource wars that united Earth. She was tough, smart, and absolutely ruthless when necessary. "We need information first," Patricia told her command staff. "We know nothing about these Vakreen. We don't know where they are, how many ships they have, or what their capabilities are. We need intelligence." Colonel Ryan Foster, Patricia's chief strategic officer, spent 2 weeks analyzing every second of the recording. Ryan had a brilliant mind for understanding enemy psychology. He had taught military tactics at West Point before joining the Space Force. "They're apex predators," Ryan concluded. "Look at how they move, how they hunt. Everything about their culture is built around predation. They're ambush hunters, which means they rely on speed, surprise, and overwhelming force. But ambush predators have a weakness." "What weakness?" Patricia asked. "They've never had to adapt to prey that fights back intelligently. They've been the top predators for so long that they're overconfident. They follow rigid patterns because those patterns have always worked. They're not flexible." Patricia studied the analysis carefully. "So we use flexibility against them. We don't fight them head-on. We hunt them the way humans hunt, with patience, planning, and persistence." Earth began preparing a rescue fleet. But this would not be a traditional military operation. Patricia assembled a special force of soldiers who had training in guerrilla warfare, survival skills, and unconventional tactics. These were people who understood that sometimes the best way to win is not through superior firepower, but through superior thinking. Lieutenant Sophie Turner was one of the first volunteers. She had grown up in Alaska, learning to hunt and track from her father. She had joined the military at 18 and quickly rose through the ranks because of her ability to think creatively under pressure. "Ma'am, with respect, we need to understand these Vakreen better," Sophie said during one planning meeting. "We need to think like them, hunt like them, and then do what they don't expect," Patricia agreed. She authorized a risky mission. 3 stealth ships would be sent to Vakreen space to gather intelligence. They would observe from a distance, map Vakreen positions, and learn everything possible about their enemy. The intelligence mission took 6 weeks. The stealth ships, equipped with Earth's best sensor technology, watched Vakreen hunting parties on several different worlds. They recorded everything: how the Vakreen moved, how they communicated, how they organized their hunts, what their ships looked like, where their bases were located. One of the stealth ships, commanded by Captain Peter Grant, made a crucial discovery. The Vakreen had a central world where they processed captured prey before distributing them to various hunting preserves. The recordings from Kevin's data device had come from that world. "That's where they'll be," Patricia said, studying the star charts. "That's where we'll find the crew of the Horizon." The rescue fleet consisted of 15 ships, not the biggest vessels in Earth's Navy, but the fastest and most advanced. The flagship was a carrier called the Retribution, equipped with new stealth technology that made it nearly invisible to sensors. Ryan Foster briefed the strike teams before they left Earth. "Remember, we're not going in for a stand-up fight. We're going in as hunters. The Vakreen think they own the galaxy. They think they can take whatever they want. We're going to teach them that humans are not prey." The fleet traveled for 3 weeks at maximum speed. During that time, Sophie Turner trained her insertion team constantly. They practiced moving in low gravity. They practiced silent communication. They practiced every scenario they might encounter. "The Vakreen have better armor than us," Sophie told her team. "They're stronger and faster. But we have something they don't have. We have thousands of years of experience hunting things that were bigger, stronger, and more dangerous than us. Our ancestors killed mammoths with pointed sticks. We can handle this." When the fleet arrived at the edge of Vakreen space, Patricia ordered a cautious approach. The stealth ships went in first, mapping out Vakreen patrol routes and defense positions. What they found was surprising. The Vakreen had very few defensive positions. Their home system had almost no military presence. They were so confident in their superiority that they didn't bother with serious defenses. They've never been attacked, Ryan observed. Every species they've encountered either ran away or died. They can't imagine someone actually coming after them. Patricia smiled coldly. Then we'll give them a new experience. The first strike went exactly as planned. Sophie's team landed on a Vakreen hunting world in the middle of the night. They moved through the alien forest like ghosts, using skills that humans had developed over millions of years of evolution. They found a Vakreen hunting party that was tracking some kind of reptilian prey. The Vakreen never knew what hit them. Sophie's team didn't kill them, that would be too obvious. Instead, they sabotaged the Vakreen's equipment, disabled their communications, and left them stranded in their own hunting preserve. When other Vakreen came looking, they found their fellow hunters confused and frightened, talking about prey that had somehow hunted them. Over the next 2 weeks, Earth forces conducted dozens of similar operations across multiple Vakreen worlds. They never engaged in direct combat. They just made the Vakreen feel what their victims had felt: helplessness, confusion, and fear. Reports began flooding into Vakreen command centers. Hunting parties were being disrupted. Equipment was failing mysteriously. Prey was disappearing before hunters could reach it. Some hunting parties were finding their own members captured and released, alive but traumatized. Hunter Prime Zakthul received these reports with growing confusion. This had never happened before. The Vakreen had never encountered resistance like this. They had no protocols for dealing with prey that fought back intelligently. Find out what's happening, Zakthul ordered its subordinates. Find out what species is doing this. Meanwhile, Patricia's fleet moved closer to Vakreen Prime. Intelligence reports confirmed that the Horizon crew was being held in a processing facility on the planet's surface. Some of them had already been released into hunting preserves. We need to move fast, Patricia said. Every day we wait, we lose more of our people. Ryan had a plan. It was risky and would require perfect timing. But if it worked, they would not only rescue the humans but also deliver a message that the Vakreen would never forget. We don't attack their military, Ryan explained. We attack their confidence. We show them that they're not the apex predators they think they are. We show them that humanity is something different, something they've never encountered before. The fleet moved into position. Sophie's team prepared for the most important insertion of their lives. And on Vakreen Prime, Lisa Hayes and the other humans fighting for survival in the hunting grounds had no idea that help was coming. But help was coming. Earth took care of its own, and the Vakreen were about to learn that lesson the hard way. In the hunting grounds of Vakreen Prime, Greg Miller and his people had survived for 17 days. That was 16 days longer than most prey species lasted. The Vakreen had sent hunting parties after them 5 times. And 5 times the humans had evaded capture through tactics that left their hunters confused and frustrated. The humans had split into smaller groups, each one using different terrain and strategies. Greg led a group of 12 in the forested areas. Lisa commanded a group of 10 in the rocky highlands. Jake took 7 others into the wetlands. They moved constantly, never staying in one place long enough for the Vakreen to pin them down. They hunt by sight and sound, Greg explained to his group as they rested in a cave they had found. They're used to prey that runs in panic. We don't panic. We think, we plan. We use the environment against them. The humans had learned to read the signs of Vakreen presence. The aliens moved with a distinctive sound, their 6 limbs creating a specific rhythm. They left marks on trees and rocks as they passed. They had a smell, faint but noticeable, like copper mixed with something organic. More importantly, the humans had learned Vakreen hunting patterns. The aliens always checked obvious hiding spots first. They always approached from downwind. They always assumed their prey would run rather than hide. These patterns were predictable, and predictability was a weakness. Lisa's group had gone even further. They had set traps, simple ones made from vines and rocks. The traps weren't designed to hurt the Vakreen. Their armor was too strong for that, but they could slow them down, confuse them, and make them waste time and energy. We're not trying to win, Lisa told her people. We're trying to survive long enough for Earth to find us. And I know they're looking. I know Patricia Scott, she won't abandon us. On the 18th day, something changed. The humans noticed that the Vakreen hunting parties seemed distracted. They weren't as focused as before. Some of them kept checking their communication devices and looking at the sky. "Something's happening," Jake said to his group. "Something's got them worried." He was right. Above Vakreen Prime in the darkness of space, Patricia Scott's fleet had arrived. They came in dark with all systems running silent, using the planet's moon to mask their approach. The Vakreen had sensors, but they weren't watching for threats. They had never needed to before. Sophie Turner and her strike team launched from the Retribution in small, fast-drop ships. They entered the atmosphere at night, coming in low and fast over the ocean before heading inland toward the main processing facility. The facility was enormous, covering several square miles. But Sophie's team had studied its layout from reconnaissance data. They knew where the power generators were. They knew where the prison cells were located. And they knew where Hunter Prime Zachthol commanded operations. The team split into 3 groups. Sophie led the first group to the power systems. A sergeant named Victor Lang took the second group to the prison cells. The third group, led by a lieutenant named Mary Cole, headed for the command center. Sophie's group moved through the facility like shadows. The Vakreen guards never saw them coming. Earth soldiers used non-lethal weapons that discharged electrical pulses, not to kill but to temporarily paralyze. They didn't want to start a war if it could be avoided. They just wanted their people back. The power systems were biological, like everything Vakreen. They looked like massive organs pulsing with energy. Sophie planted devices that would disrupt the energy flow without destroying the systems. Within minutes, lights throughout the facility began to flicker and fail. Victor's group reached the prison cells and found humans still being held there. There were engineering staff and junior crew members from the horizon, people who hadn't been sent to the hunting grounds yet. "Earth military," Victor whispered to the startled prisoners. "We're getting you out. Stay quiet and follow us." Meanwhile, Mary's group had reached the command center. They moved through corridors filled with confused Vakreen, who were trying to figure out why their systems were failing. The humans slipped past them using stealth training and the chaos of the power failures. Hunter Prime Zachthol stood in the command center, barking orders at its subordinates. The great predator was experiencing something it had never felt before: genuine concern. Reports were coming in from all over the Empire about mysterious attacks. Now its own facility was having power problems. Something was very wrong. Mary and her team entered the command center through a service entrance. They spread out quickly, their weapons trained on every Vakreen in the room. The aliens froze, shocked by the sudden appearance of prey in their own command center. "Nobody move," Mary said calmly. Her translator rendered the words into Vakreen. "We're not here to kill you. We're here to retrieve what's ours." Zachthol turned all 6 of its eyes toward her. For the first time in its life, the Hunter Prime felt something it couldn't name. Later, it would understand that the feeling was fear. "How did you get in here?" Zachthol clicked. "This facility is secure. You are prey. You cannot be here." "We're not prey," Mary replied. "We're humans. And you made a big mistake when you took our people." Outside, Patricia Scott's fleet revealed itself. The ships powered up all at once, filling Vakreen sensors with overwhelming energy signatures. 15 heavily armed vessels hung in orbit, weapon systems active, looking down at the planet below. Patricia opened a communication channel directly to Vakreen Command. "This is Admiral Patricia Scott of United Earth Forces. You have kidnapped 47 of our citizens. You will return them immediately, or we will come down there and take them. Your choice." The Vakreen military command was in chaos. They had ships, but those ships were designed for capturing prey vessels, not for fighting a real battle. They had weapons, but those weapons were made for hunting, not warfare. They had been the apex predators for so long that they had forgotten how to be anything else. In the hunting grounds, Greg and his people heard explosions in the distance. They saw lights in the sky that looked like ships. Jake climbed a tall tree to get a better view and came back down with a huge smile on his face. "Those are Earthships," he said.
"They found us."
"They actually found us." Sophie's team made contact with the humans in the hunting grounds using radio frequencies that the Vakreen couldn't detect. Within 2 hours, all the surviving humans were gathered at designated extraction points. Dropships came down from orbit to pick them up, and Vakreen hunting parties could only watch helplessly as their prey flew away into the sky. Greg was the last human to board an extraction ship. Before he left, he turned and looked back at the forest where he had fought for survival. A Vakreen hunter stood at the tree line watching him go. Greg raised his hand in a salute. a gesture of respect from one predator to another. The hunter understood. The prey had become the predator. The roles had reversed. Back in the command center, Patricia Scott herself came down to the planet's surface. She walked into the facility surrounded by her security team and stood face to face with Hunter Prime Zach Thule. "Your empire has existed for 3,000 years, Patricia said. "You've hunted every species you encountered. You built your civilization on predation, but today you learned something new. You learned that you're not the only predators in the galaxy." Zach Thule said nothing. What could it say? Everything it believed about the natural order had just been proven wrong. Humans evolved on a world full of predators. Patricia continued. "We weren't the biggest or the strongest or the fastest. But we survived because we learned to hunt the hunters. We learned to plan, to adapt, to never give up. We became apex predators not through strength but through intelligence." She stepped closer to Zach Thule, looking up at the massive alien without fear. "You can continue hunting sapient species and we will continue hunting you. Or you can change. Learn a new way. Join the galactic community as equals instead of predators. Your choice." Zach Thule understood the message. The Vakreen had been given an ultimatum. Change or face extinction. For a species that had never encountered real resistance, it was a shocking moment of clarity. Patricia's fleet left Vakreen space with all 47 crew members of the Horizon. 31 had survived the hunting grounds through skill and determination. 16 had been rescued from the processing facility before they could be hunted. As the Earth ships entered hyperspace, heading home, Greg stood on the bridge of the Retribution next to Patricia. "Thank you," he said simply. Patricia shook her head. "You survived for 18 days in their hunting grounds. You didn't need saving, Greg, you just needed backup." The rescue mission was complete, but the message had only just begun to spread across the galaxy. Humanity had announced its presence in a way no one could ignore. 5 years had passed since the incident at Vakreen Prime. The galaxy was a different place now, and Hunter Prime Zach Thule was a different being. It stood in what had once been a command center for hunting operations, and was now a cultural exchange facility. Across from it sat Commander Lisa Hayes, who had become Earth's chief liaison to the Vakreen people. "The younger generation adapts more easily," Zach Thule said through its translator. The device had been upgraded with human technology, making communication much smoother. "They are learning that hunting for sport is not the only path. But the older hunters struggle with the change." Lisa nodded. She understood. Cultural change was never easy, especially when it meant abandoning beliefs that had been held for thousands of years. After the rescue of the Horizon crew, Earth had not declared war on the Vakreen Empire. Instead, Patricia Scott had proposed something radical. A treaty. Not a surrender, but a partnership. The Vakreen would stop hunting sapient species, and in return, Earth would help them transition to a new way of life. Many people on Earth had been angry about this approach. They wanted revenge for what happened to the Horizon crew, but Patricia had argued successfully that destroying the Vakreen would make humanity no better than them. Teaching them was harder, but it was the right thing to do. The Treaty of Terra Nova, signed 2 years after first contact, laid out clear terms. The Vakreen would release all sapient prisoners and close their hunting preserves. They would redirect their hunting instincts toward non-sapient prey and competitive sports. In exchange, Earth would provide technology, training, and support for the transition. It had not been easy. Some Vakreen clans rejected the treaty and tried to continue their old ways. These rebels captured prey from undefended worlds and established illegal hunting operations. Earth forces, working with Vakreen authorities who supported the treaty, had to shut down these operations by force. Colonel Ryan Foster had led most of these interventions. He had become an expert on Vakreen psychology and culture. He understood that the rebels weren't evil, they were scared. Their entire identity was built on being hunters, and now they were being asked to change. "We can't just tell them to stop being who they are," Ryan explained during one strategy session. "We need to give them a new identity, something that uses their natural instincts but channels them in a different direction." That insight led to the creation of the Galactic Exploration Initiative. Vakreen hunters, with their incredible tracking skills and physical abilities, were perfect for exploring dangerous new worlds. Working alongside human scientists and engineers, they began mapping unexplored regions of space. Sophie Turner had volunteered to lead the first joint human Vacrine exploration team. Her team included 3 humans and 2 Vacrine, and their first mission was to explore a planet in an uncharted system. The mission was tense at first. The Vacrine still had instincts to hunt, and the humans still remembered being hunted, but necessity forced cooperation. When the team encountered a dangerous predator on the alien world, a creature that resembled a cross between a bear and a spider, human and Vacrine had to work together to survive. Sophie's planning combined with the Vacrine's physical abilities saved everyone's lives. "We make a good team," one of the Vacrine, a younger hunter named Telves, said afterward. It was the first time a Vacrine had ever admitted that other species could be partners instead of prey. Back on Earth, the returning crew of the Horizon had become celebrities. Greg Miller had retired from active duty, but now taught at the Space Force Academy. His class on survival and adaptation was the most popular course on campus. Jake Coleman had been promoted multiple times and now commanded his own ship. He never forgot those 18 days in the Vacrine hunting grounds. That experience had taught him that humans could overcome anything if they refused to give up. Amy Barnes worked in the diplomatic corps, helping to establish relations with species that the Vacrine had previously hunted. Many of these species were afraid to trust anyone, but Amy's patience and understanding helped them see that not all powerful species were predators. Lisa Hayes had perhaps the hardest job of all. As chief liaison, she had to balance Earth's interests with the need to support Vacrine reform. She spent most of her time on Vacrine Prime, working directly with their government and cultural leaders. "Some of your people will never accept the change," Lisa told Zach Thole during one of their regular meetings. "But that's okay. Change doesn't have to be universal to be real. As long as enough Vacrine choose a new path, your culture will survive." Zach Thole had become one of the strongest supporters of reform. The Hunter Prime had experienced firsthand what happened when the Vacrine encountered a species they couldn't dominate. It had learned humility, a concept that didn't exist in Vacrine language before humans arrived. "I was taught that weakness was death," Zach Thole said, "that only the strong deserve to survive. But humans taught me a different lesson. You were weaker than us in body but stronger in mind. You survived not through strength but through intelligence and cooperation. This is a form of power we never understood." The changes weren't just happening with the Vacrine. The entire galaxy was reacting to humanity's arrival. Other species that had been victims of Vacrine hunting were forming new alliances. Trade routes were opening. Scientific cooperation was expanding. The galaxy was becoming more connected than it had been in thousands of years. Krilch, the mantis-like alien who had shared a cell with the humans during their captivity, was now the ambassador from its homeworld to Earth. During the ceremony establishing formal relations, Krilch made a speech that was translated and broadcast across human space. "Humans came to our aid when no one else would," Krilch said. "They did not do this for profit or power. They did it because they believe in justice. They showed us that the strong have a responsibility to protect the weak, not to prey upon them." Not everyone in the galaxy was happy about human influence. Some species viewed humans as dangerous. They saw how Earth forces had defeated the Vacrine and worried that humans might become the next empire. These concerns were not entirely unfounded. Humanity had proven that it could fight and win against the galaxy's apex predators. Patricia Scott, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, addressed these concerns in a speech before the Galactic Council. A new organization formed to promote cooperation between species. "Earth does not seek empire," Patricia said. "We don't want to rule others. We want to explore, to learn, and to ensure that what happened to the Horizon never happens to anyone again. Yes, we're capable of violence when necessary, but we prefer peace when possible." To prove this, Earth proposed the Galactic Protection Treaty. Any species could request protection from aggression, and Earth would provide military support if needed. In exchange, those species would agree to peaceful resolution of conflicts and open cooperation with other signatories. The treaty was controversial. Some saw it as Earth trying to become the galaxy's police force. Others saw it as necessary protection against species like the Vacrine, who might return to their old ways. After 2 years of debate, 47 species signed the treaty. The number wasn't coincidental. It matched the number of Horizon crew members who had been captured. Jake Coleman, now Captain Coleman, commanded one of the protection fleet ships. His vessel patrolled the outer regions of known space, responding to distress calls and showing the flag. It wasn't always exciting work, but it was important. One day, Jake's ship received a distress call from a small colony on a remote world. When they arrived, they found that a group of Vakreen rebels had attacked the settlement. The colonists, a species of peaceful farmers, were being rounded up for hunting. Jake deployed his security teams with clear orders: minimum force, maximum effect. They surrounded the rebels and cut off their escape routes. When the Vakreen tried to fight, they found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. Within 3 hours, the rebels were captured and the colonists were safe. One of the captured Vakreen looked at Jake with confusion. "We are hunters. This is our nature. Why do you oppose nature?" Jake thought about that question. It was something he had wondered himself during those days in the hunting grounds. "Nature isn't destiny," Jake said finally. "Humans were persistence hunters who chased prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. That was our nature. But we chose to become something more. We chose to build instead of just hunt. We chose to protect instead of just kill. You can make that choice too." The rebel didn't respond, but Jake saw something in its eyes. Understanding, maybe. Or at least the beginning of it. Back on Earth, in a classroom at the Space Force Academy, Greg Miller was teaching a new generation of officers. "Remember this," he told his students. "We didn't defeat the Vakreen because we were stronger or faster. We defeated them because we adapted, because we refused to accept that we were prey. That ability to adapt, to refuse to accept defeat, is what makes humanity special." A student raised her hand. "Sir, do you think we'll encounter other species like the Vakreen? Other predator civilizations?" Greg smiled. "Probably. The galaxy is vast and we've barely explored any of it, but I'm not worried. Whatever we encounter, humans will figure out how to survive. That's what we do. That's what we've always done. On Vakreen Prime, in a facility where